I have something so exciting to share with you. Something that is so powerful and was a moment in time where I really started to understand and I started to accept that the warrior heart was a movement, it was a mandate, and it will become a manifesto for activating people back into their power, activating people to come home to themselves as the way to be the most powerful version of ourselves in our own lives first and becoming our own purpose, coming home to our own healing, facing our own shit, dealing with the narrative that we have been conditioned to believe about ourselves, or the condition that we have allowed and we have victimized ourselves to our own experiences. This is for people, and this moment in time, this is for people who are done playing small, who are done being less than themselves because of experiences that they've had or things that they've become to believe about themselves. Oh, my necklace is all tangled and it is distracting me. So the warrior heart is coming into the world. It is rising into the world. And I am bringing you the warrior heart through my own experience. It is seeded in my own experience. And this is an ancestral mandate that I got about 5 years ago, that my journey, it was time for me to evolve from the Barkindji warrior into creating a movement. And it was originally the warrior within. It's had different evolutions. I wasn't ready to fully believe and surrender and accept that I was chosen and called to be the custodian and the first of the warrior heart rising, of this movement, this moment in time that is going to grow into a manifesto and a mandate for how people can come home to themselves and activate their truth through their heart and become willing to be the person who can fight for that truth to exist in the world. And the reason I'm so excited is because I got to share my journey through culture, my journey through dreaming, through being a First Nations Indigenous Barkindji Ngiyampaa woman and mother, and my journey of seeding my story in sovereignty, in dreaming, being culturally grounded, ancestrally guided, and dreaming led. My story was not seeded or defined by trauma or adversity. It was not seeded there. It is not defined by there. It has been influenced, and those are things that I have experienced that have impacted and shaped me, but they have not defined me. And I got to sit down with the one and only Arlan Hamilton. Now, if you do not know who Arlan Hamilton is yet, go and Google her name. She is a warrior heart, someone who is living an embodied version of what I want to do with my own experience and my story. She literally went from being homeless to being a venture capitalist who has invested in over 200 companies, helping entrepreneurs, Black, Indigenous people of color, Black entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs who are underrepresented and underestimated in the world. While she was homeless, literally homeless, sleeping on the street or sleeping in airports, her actions and her energy and her focus was being guided by her dreaming, not defined by her circumstances. She was pitching people. She was learning about venture investing. Whilst living in these circumstances, she was getting up and showing up for herself. And since that time, she has raised over $30 million, has over 100,000 followers on YouTube, has created pathways for people to be able to make money for themselves based off of their story, their expertise, their experiences. She is one of the most generous people, the most authentic people. And one of her taglines is, "Be yourself so those looking for you can find you." And her book, It's About Damn Time, is about us coming home to our power, about us coming home to our responsibility to be a part of our own solutions. And I got to sit down with her and record some of my story, document some of my story, and my assignment to be bringing the warrior heart into the world through my own story, my own example as the starting point, and then creating this into a movement that is both grassroots and global. And this moment was so powerful for me because I have seen what Arlan has been able to do in the last 10 to 15 years, witnessed her story and been in her world and her ecosystem. And one of her biggest goals, her focus, is to create 1,000 millionaires, because she believes, why create the next billionaire when you put $1 million into the hands of people like us and like herself? It is going to be amplified into the world. That money is going to be used to fund the change that she wants to see in the world. And Arlan is someone who I am modeling my own journey off of. I am watching what she's doing. I am creating my own businesses and frameworks off of what she is sharing, what she is coaching, and what she is out here actively doing. So I hope that you enjoy and take something. I hope that this activates you to take action, that it activates you to believe that something else is different, that it is possible for you. And if this resonates with you, leave a comment below. Just what does the warrior heart mean for you? Where are you blocking your own power and potential right now? And what is something that calls you that you don't believe you are allowed to have? And what is something that you are willing to fight for? What is something that activates your spirit and your soul that you're like, that is a non-negotiable. That is not something that I'm willing to settle for. That is the type of energy directed towards something worth fighting for. That becomes lifetime work, that becomes a calling, that you're not willing to take your last breath on this earth without knowing that you've done something to contribute to that. This is me. This is the season of dreaming and weaving the warrior hearts and Killalana as grassroots and global movements, bravely and boldly myself without apology, culturally grounded, ancestrally guided, and dreaming led as I move towards self-determination and sovereignty in building wealth while being well that is going to be here for generations to come. Welcome to the Warrior Heart Rising. This is my story. This is my moment with Arlan Hamilton. And if you are here for a moment, if you are here for something to activate you, leave a comment below, like and subscribe this video, share it with someone else that you like so it can reach someone else. And follow along for more behind the scenes, more of this as it's being documented and built in real time. I am not bringing you a journey or a moment or a movement that is already in full flow and is fully resourced. This is being documented and built in real time, and I'm doing it in my own self. This isn't something that I've perfected. This is something that is it has been mandated by my ancestors. The manifesto is being written as we speak, and it will be co-created with those who choose to come on the journey. So if this has resonated with you or lands with you in some way, leave a comment, like and subscribe to my channel, and share it with someone that you love. And if you really are activated or called by this video, come and check out my communities over on School. There's 2 levels of access. You have the gifted free community where you just want to get started. It is there. It is available for you. There are people in the community. I'm in there weekly. There's lessons in the classroom, and there's a 7-day challenge that you can use to activate your warrior heart and get you started. And then if you're ready to commit and take things to the next level, there is an investment of $50 to get you started. The Warrior Heart Circle is about coaching, behind the scenes, community, and those who are ready to move now. And to take that movement and take that moment to create a movement in their own life, to create momentum. And then if you feel like you could use some extra support, you can also book me for a one-on-one activation, a warrior heart activation call, where you will be held, you will be seen, and you will be heard. And from that, we will identify what season are you in right now. What is your greatest blocker? And what is the greatest potential you have to activate your warrior heart and start to take a step and build a bridge from where you are to where you want to be, the woman or the person that you are and the person you need to become to have that desired state. And keep your eyes open, because I'm going on tour. The Warrior Heart is going on tour, and the Warrior Heart, oh my God, this is sitting in my heart so strongly. The Warrior Heart, Suicide to World Champion, my story, a memoir, a manifesto, and a mandate for how the Warrior Heart came into the world, what it is right now, and what it's becoming, is coming out February 14th, 2026, and we will be doing a pre-launch, which all the behind the scenes, all the offerings, all the value will be in the Warrior Heart Circle, the paid community. So if you want to get on board with this and you want to be on the journey, those are your options. Workshops, activation calls, the community, getting on board the book now, liking and subscribing this video. Let me know how this video and this journey with Arlan and this moment in time of seeding the warrior heart as a moment, as a movement, a mandate, and a manifesto into the world and into your experience.
My name is Shantelle Thompson, and I am she, her, and I'm also known as the Barkindji warrior in my community because I'm a Barkindji Ngiyampaa woman from northwestern New South Wales, Australia. So my cultural background is I have many mixed cultures, but I'm an Indigenous woman to Australia. So to be Barkindji Ngiyampaa is to be from the first peoples of Australia. And for me, being Indigenous, being Barkindji Ngiyampaa is as much a part of me as being female. It's not something that I chose. It's the cultural heritage that called me forward, and it's been the thing that's helped me navigate the world and be myself in the world. Growing up connected to my country, so I grew up on my ancestral lands of the Barkindji people. I grew up playing on the river, strongly supported and grounded in culture. And alongside that were these messages of not being enough, being too much, not being allowed or not being safe to be myself in the world. Coming from an Indigenous background, but having fair skin, the world was, I was either too much or I wasn't enough. And yet for some reason, the strongest narrative that I held about myself was that my journey was grounded in the dreaming and the songlines of my ancestors. It wasn't dictated to by these other experiences and these other voices that tried to tell me what I could and couldn't be. I've had to fight to be myself my whole life. Whether it was the colonial trauma that impacted my community and the internalization of that violence of shame and genocide and trying to force us to assimilate into white ways of being and doing in the world, and trying to restore and reclaim my culture has always been something I've had to fight to do. Being a female that comes from, it's almost like we have to prostitute our trauma, or our story has to be seated in trauma in order for us to be accepted as powerful Indigenous women in the world. It's like, oh, you became powerful because you've been through some hardship and trauma. But my story wasn't seated there. My story wasn't born there. Those were things that I had to navigate. So from as little as 6 years old, I remember an incident that happened. I experienced sexual abuse at the age of 6, and it was the first time I remember using my voice and fighting back in the world, telling me to be quiet. And yet I felt the strength of my ancestors telling me that wasn't going to keep me safe. It wasn't going to be my path, was to be silent. But it's also been a very lonely journey of constantly trying to just be myself in the world, come from my heart, but not having the safety or the pathways to just be myself in the world. So that's where fighting has always come from. And fighting has meant different things in different seasons of my life and my experience. So fighting to be safe, fighting to keep my siblings safe. So I'm the second eldest of 17 siblings with mum and dad together, and then mum and dad separated. And my dad being non-Indigenous, but mum being Indigenous. And there's this common analogy in being Indigenous is walking in two worlds. But for me, I was like, that's a lot of work. I just want to be able to weave my worlds together. So that's been a constant narrative and experience and thread of my journey is how do I fight to be myself in the world without all the effort and the anger, and learning how to channel that power in a way that was going to create something rather than be destructive. So the first time I remember very significantly was when I was 15. I was about grade 9, and I had a teacher tell me I was more likely to end up dead or pregnant than I was to finish school because of my cultural background, and that my brothers were more likely to end up perpetrators of domestic violence or in jail because statistics were against us. And it was the first time that I kind of really started to understand that it was up to me to shift the narrative, not just about me, but by me and for me in the world. So it was fighting to use my voice, but at 15, I was also getting into actual physical fights because with the trauma that I'd experienced and the things like the drugs and alcohol, the family violence, the sexual abuse, my trauma manifested in physical anger to protect myself. So anytime someone would challenge me or make me feel unsafe, I would fight back. By the time I was 19, that was becoming really destructive. So I had these two parallel paths that were happening. I had the dysfunction and the pain and the trauma and the behavior that was manifesting in me just wanting to be safe in the world. And then I had this deeper kind of grounding journey that was kind of guiding me through, and at those moments where I could take a path that would destroy my life or a path that would seed something else, I kind of always was drawn to that path. So at 19, I'd graduated school. I was already at university, but I was also still in that part of fighting for myself. And someone said to me, oh, you should go and try martial arts, because they could see the fighting spirit, but they could also see that I had a lot of potential. So I was introduced to martial arts at 19, and in Australia, it was still a really young sort of thing. UFC, cage fighting, had already just started to take off globally. And Jiu-Jitsu was very new to Australia. So when I went to my local club, so I grew up in a regional community called Dareton, and then later on Mildura, which are Latchi country. And Jiu-Jitsu wasn't a done thing then. So when I worked in, it was like all these guys wrestling around on the ground, and I was really intrigued. And I was like, can I do something like this? Because at that point, there was only myself and one other female in the club. So for me, it was a pathway, and finding martial arts and weaving that together with my culture really was the journey that got me to start to learn to channel my power. It taught me self-mastery. It was this journey of going, I need to learn about myself in order to be myself in these environments. And coming from a martial arts, it's very much about humility, practice, discipline, focus. But it was also a space where jiu-jitsu is like a physical and mental game of chess. It gave me this arena to be able to figure out who I was and how to use that to translate to jiu-jitsu and creating my own style. So since I began jiu-jitsu, I have now won 3 world titles in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm also now a black belt. So I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 22 years. And at that point, that's the height of my career so far, is winning 3 world titles and being able to also transition to freestyle wrestling. So I was on the Australian wrestling team for a few years and tried out for the Olympics, the Commonwealth Games, and won an Oceania wrestling title. So at the moment, those have been the highlights of the career, and being able to use that to give other people permission to kind of share their journey. But jiu-jitsu is something that I'm still doing. So 22 years I've been training and practicing, and I'm now on my path to seeking to win a black belt world title, because that's the only one kind of that I haven't won yet. So in order to win a world championships, there's 2 levels of jiu-jitsu. So you've got the professional league, which is held in LA, and it's always held at the last week of May, first week of June. And you come in and you register for your weight division. So if you're a black belt, you also have to qualify in your own country. So you have to have been competing and ranked a certain level of points to qualify to compete at the world championships. And that is the professional level. So these are all the younger people. These are the more professional athletes. And then you've got the Masters World Championships, which is held in August in Las Vegas. So for me, I'm still competing in the professional level, but I'm also more realistic, being 41 and being a mum and running a business and being an entrepreneur, that I have other responsibilities and I don't have the resources to compete at that level. So it's competing at the World Masters in August this year. and you register for your weight division. You compete in your weight division, but then you also have the opportunity to compete in the open weight, which is all of the women who have qualified and medaled in their divisions that then go into an open arena to see who's basically the best of the best for that year. So I just wanted to share with you my black belt. And there's a big story behind my black belt. So on my black belt is inscribed the Barkindji warrior. So every time I tie my belt on, I know that I'm becoming that version of myself. It's like going through a ceremony and putting on my armor and stepping into that spirit. But I got my black belt in July of 2023. So pre-COVID, I was competing at the top of my game. I was competing at the Worlds. I was ranked. 2019, things were going really well. My business was starting to take off. And my dream of being a professional athlete was really, really close. Now, being a mum of 5 and coming from Australia, being a mature age competing athlete and being a professional athlete wasn't the norm. So I was looking to have to create my own pathways. So in 2019, when I won my brown belt world championship, I actually went and bought my own black belt. And it's not the done thing. And I got it inscribed with the Barkindji warrior because the Barkindji warrior is a name that was gifted to me by an elder in my community, because a lot of my community didn't understand who I was. I was the one who was always going first or doing things differently or evolving our culture and taking it in a way that it hadn't been done before. So there was a lot of judgment, a lot of misunderstanding around a mum's not supposed to do those things, or Indigenous women aren't doing those things, so why are you doing it? So when she gave me the name, the Barkindji warrior, and I bought my first black belt, this was me giving myself permission that this was going to happen in my journey. I didn't know how it was going to happen. So when COVID happened, I didn't think it was ever going to happen because I retired from competing and I also had another child. So I was 38, I had my youngest child, and with being pregnant with him, I had a very difficult birth. I was 144 kilos, which I think is over 300 pounds. I had emergency C-section and I fractured my tailbone. So I thought my career was done. But then in July of 23, my coach, my professor came from Brazil and he called me and he said, I want to give you your black belt. And I said, but I haven't been training. And he said, but you're not done here. And I know in order to bring you back, we need to give you your black belt. So even though I wasn't ready and I didn't believe I had what it took to be a black belt at that level, I knew I could become a black belt through my journey. And now my journey to being a black belt world champion is so much bigger than me, but also this one's for me. Because the first one, no one believed I could do it. The second one, people stood up and paid attention. The third one kind of cemented me as being an elite athlete in my 30s, as a mum and an Indigenous woman, challenging that status quo. But this time, this journey is personal. So that's what black belt means to me at the moment. So I'd like to share with you some of the cultural journey that I've been through. And it's my jiu-jitsu journey and my cultural journey have kind of woven together. So I grew up being Indigenous, but I didn't necessarily grow up learning our history or learning our culture. Because of colonialism, my mum and my grandmother couldn't practice culture. My great-grandmother was one of the last women in our family to kind of practice culture, and I didn't grow up with my mum. So being able to be on this journey and find ways to connect with culture and learn it has been a journey of cultural restoration and almost a reclamation of myself in the world. So I started practicing culture more seriously at around 25 after I was already a mum of 3. And I knew that I needed to ground myself in culture to be able to find my path in the world. So this is called a dilly bag. And it's one of the first things that I learned how to weave and practice women's business. And these are clapsticks and they're used as ceremonial tools to create music, or for me when I'm speaking, instead of trying to capture the audience's attention, I use these, and it's almost my way of reminding myself and waking up my ancestors to walk with me, to, I guess, guide me on this path and wanting to plant seeds that will have a ripple effect for generations to come. So when I use these items, it's my way of saying I'm still Indigenous, I'm still here, even though the world tried to wipe us out. When we hold our clapsticks, they have many different designs. This is red gum from the Barkindji country. So it's trees that are on the river and they're very dense. So I'm going to give you an example. And we would use that to wake our ancestors up, or we would use it to create a rhythm for our girls or our kids to dance to when we're sharing culture. And when we're not using them, we carry them in our dilly bag because this is also like our medicine bag. So women were gatherers and we would always have them with us. It wasn't just something that we did for a performance. Like this was ceremonies and ways of moving through the world. 2019 was a very significant year for me. It was very much a year where I think my community started to understand what I was doing in the world and how me being me in the world was really starting to shift the narrative for our community first and foremost, particularly for our women and girls around being a mum doesn't mean I need to self-abandon, and being a leader doesn't mean I need to burn out. And this was a ceremonial belt that my auntie, Auntie Claire Bates, created. And a lot of her journey her cultural journey started when she was in her 40s as well, because growing up, she wasn't allowed to be Indigenous, or it wasn't safe to be Indigenous. So that's quite a common story of women finding their way back to their culture at a later age. So this has been woven, and these are emu feathers. So emu feathers are one of the only birds where off of one stem you have two feathers. So there's always a lesson in that, is that you have a choice to make. You can either make a choice that can help you or harm you. So when I'm speaking or sharing my story, I wear my culture, and it's not as a performance. It's more grounding me in the responsibility of knowing that who I'm being in the world needs to honor and respect those who came before me. It needs to strengthen those who exist in the same timeline, and it needs to plant seeds for generations to come. And it was around this time that all this journey started to happen, that I started to understand that my journey of being a woman, being a mum, being an auntie in the community was also the planting of the seed for Kilalana, the work that I do in the community. And Kilalana, ki means heart in our language. And when it's woven in with Lalana, Kilalana means growing, and growing heart. And for me, it was like, in order to navigate everything, I always had to come back to my heart, but I had to fight to be myself in the world. So Barkindji warriors started to evolve into warrior heart. Aboriginal people from Australia are the oldest living culture in the world. So far, science has documented our journey of being on the continent of Australia as over 80,000 years. So when you think of colonialism, Australia is a very young colonized country of 230 plus years. So when I'm looking at the history, I'm reminded that I come from thousands of generations, and it is my responsibility to pick up where my ancestors left off, to ensure that the legacy that I leave behind, that those that I serve are beneficiaries, not collateral damage to my journey and how I walk through the world. So where jiu-jitsu and culture have kind of really woven together is that they really did save my life. So no one talks about in Australia the effects of postnatal depression and postpartum depression and psychosis, and how if you have a history of trauma or intergenerational trauma, that you are more at risk of these things. And as an Indigenous woman, when we present with health issues, it's often dismissed. So I had my first daughter at 22, and then I had my twins at 25. And no one spoke to me, really educating me around what the risks were of mental health and those sort of things that I needed to be aware of. And in Western systems of health, the focus is often on the pregnancy and the child. It's never on the experience of the mother. So I'm the oldest girl in my family. I'm used to caring for everyone else. So I didn't have the space or the luxury of slowing down to recognize when I started to become unwell. So by the time I had my twins, I'd already started to expand beyond postpartum depression into postpartum psychosis. I was having episodes of imagining hurting my kids, and I'd stopped doing jiu-jitsu by this point. I wasn't involved as much in my culture. So the things that kept me strong and well weren't in my daily experience. And being a mum at 25 of 3 children under the age of 3 was a big thing, and trying to work and study as well and just be me in the world. So I didn't recognize, and when I did start to suspect that I was not well, I didn't feel like I could speak up, because in Australia, Indigenous women that present with issues or challenges, we're often face the risk of our children being removed because they're Indigenous. But my journey got to a point where I actually had an incident where I hurt my daughter. I started to act out the psychosis. I was disassociated, and I didn't even have this language back then. And I started to squeeze my daughter because I'd started to act on it. And then her dad walked through the door at that point. And I don't know what would have happened if he hadn't have walked through the door. So I left the house and I tried to seek help. But when I got to a female doctor to share my experience, her first words were, "You're Indigenous. We want to send child protection and the police to check on your children, and you should spend time in a mental health facility." I was 25 and all my fear was coming to the forefront. It was now becoming a risk that I could lose my kids because I was unwell. So on the way home, I tried to suicide and something stopped me. And now I know that it's because my life has a bigger purpose beyond that. So I had to take responsibility to heal and begin that journey because no one could help me until I was willing to help myself. And jiu-jitsu and culture were really the pathway. So I started jiu-jitsu again and I started to take responsibility for my own healing because I didn't want to use medication because my family had a history of addiction. And I really had to start to take responsibility for my own healing. So that was the intersection of being unwell. And that was really the seeded point of me becoming a world champion because jiu-jitsu was my playtime. It was my therapy, and competition was just a way for me to channel things because in comparison to being a mum and being an Indigenous woman and working, like it didn't seem that big of a deal. It was just what I did on the side. But it became so much more than that. By being on the mats, being an Indigenous woman on the mats and a mother, I started to heal so that I could then do what I needed to do for my kids. And that was the entry point of me starting Kilalana, the community work that I do. The entrepreneurial journey started from there. And it all started because I wanted to do better for my kids, but in order to do better for them, I had to do better for myself. When I'm asked what my assignment is in the world, it's kind of evolved over the years because now I understand. So we call an assignment our dreaming or our ancestral mandate. So you have a purpose, but you also have a calling. And for me, I've now understood that my assignment is to be myself in the world because the world tells so many people like me to not be themselves, or you're only allowed to be a shade of yourself, a shadow of yourself, to be accepted, to be safe, to belong. So my whole journey has been about becoming more of myself and reclaiming and remembering who I was before the world tried to tell me who I was allowed to be. Because then I get to walk into a room grounded, culturally grounded, ancestrally guided and dreaming led. So our culture it's about the dreaming, and our dreaming is our spirituality. It's our song lines. So for me, trusting that my ancestors have a bigger plan for me and that my journey is to become the most powerful version of myself so that when I'm called to lead or I'm called to do something, I can step up to do that. And then by extension, that's about creating a different world for my kids to experience, the women and girls in my community to remember who we are as matriarchal Indigenous women, that our story is not seated in our trauma. It is seated in being the oldest living culture in the world, a matriarchal culture. So my assignment is to be myself in the world and by extension, giving others permission to do the same. So when I first found Arlan, it came through connecting with another entrepreneur. And it's, when I look back on my journey, it's kind of, I've always been led and guided to where I needed to be. When I seen that Arlan was opening up a program and a community called Arlan's All Access, I couldn't resist. I had to jump straight in. I'd already read the books. I'd already seen Arlan in action. And it just spoke to me about, because one of my favorite quotes from Arlan is, "Be yourself in the world so those looking for you can find you." And coming into Arlan's All Access, I wasn't sure what to expect. The thing that's excited me the most and kept me there is the community. You have everything you need to succeed in Arlan's All Access. If you implement and execute 10% of what you're taught in the classroom, in the lessons, you will succeed. There's nothing ifs or buts about it. You will succeed. And yet it's the community and the way that everyone supports each other. And you can come with not just your work in the world, but also the things that are getting in the way of you doing your work in the world. And people are very generous. People will share their life experiences. They'll share opportunities. So when I seen that the inner circle was available, by extension, I know the power of being in the room. And for me, Arlan's an amazing draw card. And it's the community that I know that Arlan attracts and the power of the people that are on their own journey in their own way. So for being in the inner circle, it was about the power of being in the room, and it was the power of proximity as well, so that I needed to globalize my community because I was limited in the world that I was in. So I wanted to expand my world and be in a room with people who were further ahead on the journey so that I could share what I was going through and get that guidance, get the doors opened, but also bring that experience back to Australia, bring that experience back to being a woman in business. And the people that are in Inner Circle are people that are heart-led people. They're people who are wanting to change the world, but understanding that we need wealth to do that. We're not trying to change the world by being poor or by being broken. And I think that when you see a lot of entrepreneurs or people who want to change the world, Arlan's All Access and the Inner Circle change the way you do your work. It's from a place of sustainability, but also thinking about impact in a more strategic way. And I've not seen many conversations had like that. But I also love that Arlan hasn't shifted from the first time I saw her. She's teaching us in real time. She's also using her platforms to elevate other people who are implementing the work, and not just necessarily in the economic outcomes, but in their purpose evolving, in them finding more life satisfaction. And that's the power of being in All Access and Inner Circle. If you're feeling something from watching this and it's shifted something or called to something in you, that's your truth asking to be spoken. And sometimes it's something that we've buried because of safety, or something that we avoid within ourselves because we don't believe in ourselves. But here's what I know to be true. When we come from our heart doesn't lie. It allows us to bypass ego and trauma. And when we are willing to lead from our heart, that is the deepest power and impact that we can give to others. But in order to be in order to see the change in the world we want to see, we need to be that for ourselves first. So when we lead from our heart, and we lead by being the change we want to see in the world within ourselves first, that's the greatest gift we can give to those that we love, and that's the most powerful legacy that we can leave. So I would implore people to find the courage and the strength to figure out who they are and what their assignment is in the world, and to start to move towards that, because we need more people who are willing to be warrior hearts in the world, because that's what we're going to do to create the fastest change for generations to come, so they're not going to experience the same things we did.